everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive with us. Today, we're going to be looking at something that might seem kind of ordinary on the surface, but trust me, it gets pretty interesting. We're talking about home cooking. Like who's doing it, how much are they doing it, and what it all tells us about the world.
Yeah, it really is one of those everyday things we often take for granted. But, when you really start to dig into the data behind it, it reveals some pretty surprising things about, societal norms and expectations.
For sure. So we've got this awesome study by CookPad and Gallup, and it looks at cooking habits in a ton of different countries. And one of the most interesting things they found is that the global gender gap in home cooking is actually wider now than it was just a few years ago.
It's kind of a head scratcher, isn't it?
Yeah.
Especially when you think about all the strides we've made in other areas of, gender equality. Globally, women are now cooking an average of 4.7 more meals per week than men are.
Whoa, that's wild. Almost like a whole extra day of cooking every week.
Right. It really makes you think, what's going on here?
And before we get too into the why of it all, I think it's important to point out that things were actually moving in a more equitable direction before the pandemic hit.
Yeah.
There was a real trend of men kind of stepping up and taking on more responsibility in the kitchen.
Absolutely. You saw this in dual-income households where, men were starting to share more of the domestic duties. Celebrity chefs were making cooking seem, a little cooler for guys.
Yeah.
And I think there was just generally more of an awareness around gender equality overall.
Right. Yeah, for sure. So the big question is what happened?
Data on the screen, numbers come alive. Male, female flows where the patterns thrive. Visual charts, public colors unify. Gender decoded, bringing truth to light. Small drum fill. We break it down, real talk. Trends unveiling, facts from every block. Here's your insight, watch the data glide. Gender decoded, let the beats collide. We break it down, real talk. Trends unveiling, facts from every block. Here's your insight, watch the data glide. Gender decoded, let the beats collide.
Our mission today to
Yeah.
unpack this widening gender gap we're seeing
Hi.
in home cooking.
Interesting.
So where is it most pronounced? Where is it shrinking? And what does it all mean?
Well, to understand it now,
Yeah.
we kind of have to look back a bit first.
Okay.
Women have been the primary cooks
Right.
in most cultures, traditionally.
Mm-hmm.
But over the past few decades, things like
Yeah.
more women in the workforce,
Mm.
gender roles evolving, it seemed like things were changing.
Right. It felt like we were moving towards a more
Yeah.
balanced division of labor in the kitchen, especially during the pandemic. Everyone stuck at home, cooking more.
Yeah.
But then this new data reveals this kind of surprising twist.
Yeah, the pandemic, it actually seemed like it was closing the gap at first.
Right.
But then as things went back to normal,
Yeah.
the gap got wider again.
Wow.
So it seems like those really deep-rooted patterns,
Yeah.
they're pretty resilient, even when society's changing.
Okay, so let's look at the data.
Yeah.
What does this CookPad and Gallup research tell us? Where's the gender gap most extreme?
Okay, so the biggest difference is
Yeah.
they're in countries like Ethiopia.
Mhm.
Women are cooking 8.6 more meals per week than men.
Wow.
Tajikistan, Egypt, Nepal,
Okay.
Yemen,
Right.
Algeria, they're all up there too.
That's a huge difference. I mean, almost 3 times as many meals,
Yeah.
In Ethiopia.
Right.
What factors could be contributing to such a big gap in those countries?
Well, each country's different, obviously.
Right.
But you see some common things.
Okay.
Like many of these countries,
Yeah.
they have lower average incomes.
Mm-hmm.
So women might not have as many job opportunities outside the home.
Right.
which reinforces those traditional roles
Yeah.
and limits their economic power.
So economics plays a big role.
Yeah.
But what about culture? Are there cultural factors too?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Many cultures.
Yeah.
Cooking's deeply tied to a woman's identity, like a key part of her role in the family.
Right.
And these cultural norms, they're powerful.
Yeah.
And they don't change easily.
That makes sense. So we've seen where it's widest.
Right.
What about the other end? Are
Yeah.
there any places where it's actually shrinking or even like non-existent?
There are.
Oh, wow.
The smallest gaps, they're mostly in Western and Northern Europe.
Okay.
Oh, and Jamaica.
Interesting.
Places like Spain, UK, Switzerland, France. They all have much smaller differences in how much men and women cook.
So Europe's been seen as a leader
Yeah.
in those progressive social policies, right? Could that be why?
It's possible.
Okay.
Policies that help with work-life balance, like affordable childcare,
Yeah.
parental leave for both parents, that can create an environment where
Yeah.
both men and women have more time and flexibility
Right.
to help out with those tasks at home.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Now, I got to ask about the outlier here,
Yep.
Italy.
Yeah.
The data says Italian men actually cook slightly more than women.
It's true.
What's going on there?
Italy's definitely the exception.
Right.
It challenges what we think about traditional gender roles,
Mm-hmm.
especially since Italy's got such strong culinary traditions, right?
Right. It's known for those iconic nanas running the kitchen.
Yeah.
What could explain this?
Well, there are a few things.
Okay.
Maybe it's the younger generations
Mm-hmm.
challenging those old norms
Right.
and wanting more equal relationships. Or maybe it's the growing number of women in Italy's workforce,
Mm-hmm.
leading to sharing responsibilities more at home.
It's fascinating to see a country like Italy
Yes.
flip the script like that, on those deep-rooted gender roles in the kitchen.
Yeah.
It is. This global data is really eye-opening.
Mhm.
But what about individual experiences? The data gives us the overview,
Right.
but not how the gender gap is seen on a personal level.
That's true.
Right.
The data mainly focuses on like a binary view of gender,
Yeah.
but we got to remember that families in cooking roles are diverse,
Right.
especially in LGBTQ plus communities,
Mm-hmm.
where those traditional gender roles might not even apply.
That's a really important point.
Yeah.
It seems like we need to dig into those diverse experiences to
Yeah.
understand this better. And, we have to address the fact that things seem to be shifting towards more equality,
Right.
especially during the pandemic.
Yeah.
But the gap's actually widened since then.
Mm-hmm.
What's behind that?
It's complicated.
Okay.
But one big factor is those social norms. They just stick around.
Okay.
Even when women work full-time,
Yeah.
they often still carry the burden of cooking and all the other stuff at home.
It's like those old expectations are hard to shake,
They are.
even when people's lives have changed so much,
Mhm.
So are we saying that despite all the progress
Yeah.
when it comes to the kitchen,
Mm-hmm.
those traditional roles are just too ingrained to change?
Well, it's not that simple.
Okay.
Remember, during the pandemic,
Yeah.
schools were closed.
Mm-hmm.
Childcare was a mess.
You're right.
It was often women who had to change their work schedules
Yeah.
or even leave their jobs
Ah.
to handle everything at home.
Right.
So that unequal burden, it probably pushed women back into those traditional roles.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
It shows how these issues are all connected,
Mm-hmm.
Gender roles, work-life balance, what society expects.
That's all tied together.
We can't just look at the cooking gap on its own. It's all part of something bigger.
Exactly. It really shows how complex it all is.
Right.
So many factors at play.
Yeah.
It's not just what individuals choose, but the whole structure of society and economics that shapes those choices,
So where do we go from here? Knowing all this, how
Yeah.
deep these trends are,
Mm-hmm.
is there any reason to be optimistic? Any solutions?
I think
Yeah.
we got to remember change isn't always like a straight line.
Okay.
We see progress, then setbacks.
Mm,
But that doesn't mean it's not happening.
right.
One good thing is more people are aware of this issue now.
Yeah.
More people are realizing that the unequal cooking work is a problem,
Mm-hmm.
and they're talking about it.
That's good, but how do we actually change things? Not just talk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There are a few areas we can look at.
Okay.
One is education.
Yeah.
If we start challenging those traditional gender roles early on,
Mm-hmm.
teaching both boys and girls that cooking is a valuable skill, we can set things up for a more equal future.
I love that idea. What if cooking classes were like mandatory in school?
Right.
For everyone, no matter their gender.
Exactly.
He would break down those stereotypes from a young age, and everyone would have the skills to feed themselves and others.
Yeah. It's about making a culture where everyone feels comfortable and confident in the kitchen.
Right.
Another thing is policy changes.
You mean like government policies?
Yeah, like affordable childcare,
Mm-hmm.
flexible work schedules.
Okay.
When parents have more time
Right.
and they can be more flexible,
Yeah.
it's easier to share the responsibilities at home.
Okay.
And paid parental leave for both parents,
Yeah.
not just mothers.
Mm-hmm.
That can help from the very beginning.
Right. So those policies would definitely help.
Yeah.
But it's not just about the government, right?
No.
What about technology? What role can it play?
Oh, technology can be a game changer.
Okay.
We're already seeing those new kitchen appliances, meal kits.
Yeah.
They're making cooking easier and faster.
Right.
And that can be really helpful for busy people
Yeah.
and families who can't find the time to cook.
It's true. I love those meal kits.
Yeah.
They save me on busy weeknights.
You too.
But even with better technology, we still need to address those deeper cultural norms.
Right.
Right. The expectations that drive this gap.
Yeah, it's about changing attitudes and beliefs,
Mm-hmm.
not just making cooking easier.
Right.
We need to change those ideas about who should do what in the home.
It's about challenging stereotypes and promoting equality in all parts of domestic life.
Absolutely.
Not just the kitchen.
Yeah.
And that means
Yeah.
open and honest communication in families.
Yeah.
And being willing to challenge our own biases.
It's important to see that sharing cooking can actually help everyone.
Right.
Men get to experience the joy of cooking.
Mm-hmm.
Women get a break.
Right.
It's a win-win.
Yeah.
It can make the whole family dynamic more balanced and harmonious.
So we've got education, policies, technology, a cultural shift towards equality.
Yeah.
Those are some powerful forces for change. But what can individuals do right now?
Well, it starts with being aware.
Okay.
Look at your own biases and how you might be keeping those traditional roles going in your own home.
Okay.
Talk to your partner, your family,
Yeah.
about how to share those responsibilities more fairly.
Right. It's about working together,
Yeah,
finding solutions that work for everyone.
exactly.
Not just doing what's always been done.
Challenge those outside pressures.
Yeah.
Create a culture where everyone feels like they can contribute,
Right.
no matter their gender.
Okay. That's really empowering.
Yeah,
It's exciting to imagine what could happen if we all try to close this gap.
right.
It's not just about dinner.
Right.
It's about making a fairer and more balanced society for everyone.
Exactly.
Now, are there any countries or cultures leading the way here? Any bright spots we can learn from?
Oh, yeah, there are some inspiring examples.
Okay.
The Nordic countries, they've been promoting gender equality for a long time,
Right.
and that includes the kitchen.
Okay.
They have policies that make it easier for both parents to share childcare and housework.
Yeah,
So it's led to more balanced cooking roles.
that's great. They're really living those values.
They are.
What about other parts of the world? Any success stories?
Definitely.
Okay,
We're
how-
seeing good things in Asia, too.
Okay.
In Japan, there's this growing movement of men who are into cooking
Oh, wow.
and taking a more active role in the kitchen.
Interesting.
They want more work-life balance,
Mm-hmm.
and they're realizing cooking can be fun and rewarding.
It's amazing to see these positive trends in different cultures.
Yeah.
Gives me hope that change is possible
Mm,
and that we can learn from each other.
absolutely.
But with all this talk about men sharing the cooking more, are there any downsides? Could this create new problems?
That's a good question,
Yeah.
and it's something to think about carefully. We don't want to just recreate the same power imbalances.
Right.
For example, we don't want men to take over the kitchen
Mhm.
and dictate everything.
Yeah.
It needs to be a real collaboration
Right.
based on respect and shared decisions.
It's not about replacing one kind of inequality with another.
No, it's about creating a space where everyone's contributions are valued
Mm-hmm.
and everyone has a voice.
I have another question.
Yeah.
As we use more technology and convenience foods,
Mm-hmm.
are we losing the cultural and social importance of cooking?
That's interesting.
You know, is there a danger those traditions and values will disappear?
That's a question a lot of us are thinking about.
Yeah.
As our relationship with food changes.
Right.
Technology can make cooking easier and faster,
Mm-hmm.
but cooking is more than just a chore.
Yeah.
It's a way to connect with our heritage,
Mm-hmm.
express ourselves creatively,
Yeah.
and nourish ourselves.
I love that. It's about finding that balance,
Yeah,
embracing the convenience, but keeping the heart and soul of cooking. Exactly.
Food is more than just fuel.
It is.
It connects us to people, to our cultures, to ourselves.
Got it.
It's about being mindful,
Mm.
using technology to make our experience in the kitchen better.
Yeah. Not to replace the human part altogether.
Okay, so we've covered a lot in this deep dive.
We have.
We've looked at the global gender gap in cooking,
Mm-hmm.
the things that cause it.
Yeah. The possible solutions for a more equal future.
Right, and the cultural and social side of cooking,
Mm.
that balance between technology and tradition.
It's all connected.
So listener, as we go to the last part of our exploration,
Yeah.
what stands out to you?
What new ideas have you gotten from this? What are you still thinking about?
Yeah, what insights are you taking with you?
We'll be right back to talk about those questions.
Yes.
And wrap up this deep dive.
Into the world of cooking
Gender.
and what it all means for us now.
Stay with us.
Welcome back, listener. So we've explored all this data,
Yeah.
the trends, the possible solutions for this gender gap in cooking.
Mm.
Now let's zoom out a bit
Okay.
and look at the bigger picture.
Yeah. What's the deeper meaning of all this?
Right. What does it tell us about ourselves, about society?
It's not just about who's cooking, right?
No.
It's about power,
Mm.
gender roles,
Mhm.
how we value different kinds of work.
Cooking is often seen as just a chore,
Yeah.
something we have to do,
A domestic chore.
right? And historically, it's been undervalued,
Totally.
underappreciated.
Mm-hmm.
It's been kept in this private sphere,
Right. Like it doesn't matter.
while work outside the home, often done by men,
Yeah.
has been seen as more important, more prestigious.
Exactly.
And that devaluation of domestic labor has real consequences.
It does.
It contributes to the economic gender gap,
Yeah.
limits women's opportunities,
Mm-hmm.
reinforces these traditional gender roles that hurt everyone.
Exactly. If we recognize the real value of cooking,
Yeah.
all the work that goes into it, we can challenge those inequalities
Okay.
and make a more just and fair society. So how do we change the narrative? How do we shift those deep perceptions about cooking, about caregiving?
Well, it starts with awareness,
Okay.
acknowledging all that invisible work
Mm-hmm.
that often falls on women,
Yeah.
and finding ways to share it more fairly.
Right.
This means having open conversations
Mm-hmm.
about how we divide labor in our homes and communities.
It's not just about dividing the tasks equally, though, right?
Yeah, it's more than that.
It's about recognizing each person's skills
Yeah,
and talents.
and not valuing all those contributions equally.
Whether it's cooking, cleaning, childcare, finances.
Yeah, all of it matters.
We also need to challenge those societal norms, the ones that say men shouldn't be domestic and that women are just naturally good at cooking and caregiving.
Those stereotypes limit everyone.
Exactly.
We need to encourage men to embrace their nurturing side, to see cooking as a skill, something that brings joy and connection.
Not a chore.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And we need to support women when they pursue their passions outside of the home.
Right, without guilt or pressure to do it all.
Creating a world where everyone can choose their path, regardless of gender,
Yeah.
where all contributions are valued and respected.
A world where a man who loves to cook isn't seen as weird,
Right?
and a woman who focuses on her career isn't judged.
That's what we're working towards.
I love that.
And I think we can get there
Yeah.
if we work together to challenge those outdated norms and create a more balanced and equal society.
So, listener, as we wrap up this deep dive,
Yeah.
we want to leave you with some things to think about.
What role does cooking play in your life?
Yeah, how does it shape your relationships, your identity, your connection to your culture?
And how can you use your own voice and your actions to promote gender equality, not just in the kitchen,
Right.
but everywhere?
We hope this deep dive has given you new insights and inspired you to take action.
Keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep cooking. Thanks for joining us.